That gas prices milestone we were all worried would happen is here. $5 is now the average price for a gallon of regular gas in the U.S. Get this, that's about $2 more than exactly 1 year ago. And don't expect President Biden to take any responsibility for this. He's too busy blaming everyone and everything except himself.
It's outrageous what the war in Ukraine is causing. And we're trying very hard to make sure that we've significantly increased the number of barrels of oil that are being pumped out of the reserve we have. We've got 240,000 barrels as well coming out, from other nations. We're going to keep pushing on it. It's going to keep pushing.
Alrighty, Guy Benson, I'm going to start with you because on your show, the Guy Benson show yesterday, you were talking inflation, you were talking about gas prices. But before we get started, I want to put a finer point on it because there is a sheriff in Michigan who has now instructed some of his deputies to stop taking 911 calls and go to them in person. Here's why. Isabella County Sheriff's Office is feeling the pain at the pump as well. We have exhausted what funds were budgeted for fuel with several months to go before the budget reset. And just to be clear, we're not talking about life-saving measures that are needed and that sort of thing. These are things that can be handled over the phone. But Guy, it really says so much, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it's shocking. Even if these are not immediate emergencies, you never know when a response is going to turn into an emergency. By the way, Alicia, thanks for the plug on the radio show. Much obliged. And you're right, we've been talking about this inflation issue because it is the #1 issue to Americans. Every single person feels it, except for maybe the hyper-rich. We're all feeling it. And it's shocking, and it seems like there's no end in sight as we saw the CPI number, even worse than expected yesterday, what, 8.6% increase year over year. And the thing that strikes me, Alicia, about the soundbite that we just played there from the president, he looks and sounds lost. We all understand. We have brains in our head. We're savvy people. This is not all his fault. He does not have full control over any of this. That's true of any president. But to hear this Putin line over and over again, Putin's gas increases, Putin's inflation, what, Putin's baby formula shortage, Putin's crime wave, Putin's border crisis. I mean, the casting of blame to everyone and anyone else does get, I think, tiresome, and it's insulting. No one really believes it, I guess, is the silver lining here. You look at the polling averages, he's at a new low on approval because people ultimately understand that he's not totally at fault, but recognize that he bears a lot of culpability.
Well, and Laura, Guy brought up the CPI number, the Consumer Price Index. It's up 8.6 year over year, as he mentioned, which is terrible. And to Guy's point here, okay, fine, maybe everything isn't your fault, according to the president and his administration, but folks are still in the same situation regardless of whose fault it is. And at this point, I think a lot of people out there, I know a lot of voters do, they want to know, okay, so what are you going to do about it? How long is this going to last? And how long will we be in this kind of pain?
Yeah, and they're getting, Alicia, zero answers, that no one is even addressing it. If you can't admit the problem itself and you can't admit that you are at fault for some of that, then people really aren't going to trust you to fix the problem. No one has talked about how to get us out of this. The reality is we know, at least when it comes to gas prices, some of this, just like our open southern border, is intentional from this administration, from the Democrats. They want all of us to change everything that we do. They want us to change the way we operate, and part of that is changing to electric cars. They want to get away from fossil fuels, and they don't care that this is unsustainable for people. They don't care that now that we've hit the $5 a gallon national average for gas prices, people cannot do the same things they used to do. They're not going out to dinner as much. They're not going out maybe to a movie, spending their discretionary money because they don't have any discretionary money. And the problem is that has a cascading effect on an economy. And a lot of people are worried, are we headed towards a recession? This is a good way to stay on the track to a recession when you continue down this path, when no one is willing to take blame for anything, and when there are no solutions, at least from this administration and this president, on the horizon.
Well, and Jimmy, I mean, so much for a summer break, right? You've got people sitting at home who, even if they try to leave their house, it's just so expensive. Let's put up some numbers here, because according to Moody's Analytics, families are now spending an extra $460 a month from inflation, up 107% for fuel, 49% for gas, 38% for airfare. You've got groceries, electricities, new cars and trucks. I mean, there's no relief anywhere. Jimmy.
It is insane. As a guy who's always trying to find the silver lining in anything, I would say the one upside to the Biden presidency is arson is down 83% because no one can burn your house down at $5.15 a gallon. Like, if somebody lights your lawn on fire, you really earned it at these prices, is all I would say. But I think the frustration everybody has with Biden is he's putting so much more effort into passing the buck than he is in solving the problem. When he yells and screams about Putin, Putin didn't declare war on our fossil fuel industry on the campaign trail. Joe Biden did. And when he tells us that Ukraine is the root of all economic evil, maybe, I don't know, that's a case to try and end the war in Ukraine as opposed to sending over $40 billion more to subsidize it and prolong it. And I think that's everybody's issue with Biden at this point. Forget what Republicans are saying. Look at where he's polling with independents. He's showing a real-time indifference to suffering in this country. And if he actually demonstrated some empathy as opposed to pushing that long-term agenda, because to Lara's point on electric cars, that's not a real-time solution. First of all, the cars aren't there, the infrastructure's not there, and nor is the cost effectiveness. If you don't have $5 for a gallon of gas, you don't have $57,000 for an electric car. That's like saying to me, oh, I'm having a hard time getting a date. Oh, you should just ask out Beyonce. Yeah, that's not a real solution. You know what I'm saying?
I think she would go for you, Jimmy. I'm just saying.
Oh, Lara Trump. I knew you'd have my back. Thank you.
It's worth a try.
I'm here.
Why
Check.
Yeah.
Guy's about to sing the disinformation Mary Poppins song on that one.
So, Guy, I always look through so many of these issues through the lens of the next election. And we did hear the president admit that inflation is going to last a lot longer. We do know, to Lara's point, analysts are like, look, we're either in a recession or we're right there on the border. What are your thoughts as we're heading into November on this?
Oh, it's ugly for the Democrats, the ruling party. They control everything. That's the other thing with Biden. He also tries to lash out about the, ultra MAGA, Republican, whatever. They're not in charge. You're in charge. Your whole party dominates Washington, D.C., and so voters notice that. They recognize what's happening around them. They're deeply unimpressed. And you know, Lara was talking about solutions. The biggest issue, I think, that Republicans ought to be talking about when we point out, or conservatives note, that Democrats don't seem to have good solutions, they've already exacerbated the problem so much with their reckless, wasteful spending. $2 trillion additional dollars at the very beginning of this administration. And don't forget, if they had had their way, if one or two senators had not stood up and stood in their way, they would have spent $5 trillion more dollars. On top of all of this, their solutions are the opposite of something that would make sense. We would be in much worse shape if Joe Biden had gotten his entire agenda through. Thank God he failed on some of these things.
I mean, and to add to that really quick, I wanted to say, you know, I spent a long time driving a taxi in New York City. And a lot of the guys that I know that are faced with this fuel situation aren't even driving their cabs because they're losing money. Like a $2 a gallon gas increase alone in a 20-gallon tank of gas, you're talking about $40 a day in a job that, I don't know if you guys know this, but when you're driving a cab, you're not exactly punting lobsters off the balcony because you're so wealthy you don't know what to do with all the prosperity. And that's the thing that's killing everybody, and he just doesn't care. He just wants somebody else to blame, but blame doesn't fill up a gas tank, and that's the thing that's driving me nuts. It's a now problem. We need now solutions.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.